Back here with Coach Mangini, the Super Bowl may be over. The Super Bowl euphoria in New England is alive and well. The Patriots had their Super Bowl parade yesterday, their 6th in the past 2 decades. On Sunday, Bill Belichick was caught on camera telling Tom Brady and Super Bowl MVP Julian Edelman will be back after winning Super Bowl 53. That was the most times I've said Super Bowl in 35 seconds. Coach, any reason to bet against the Patriots not being back in the Super Bowl next year?
Well, you know what today is in New England? It's just Wednesday. It's just Wednesday. I mean, they've been to 9 Super Bowls. They've won 6 Super Bowls. They've been through this whole process before. And just like anything else, when you go through something multiple times, it's not like, what do we have to do? What's the schedule going to be like? How are we going to adjust? It's just another day there, and they'll get ready for the off season. And they've been in this situation before, so the coach will get a couple weeks off. They may or may not go to the combine. The scouting started, and then they'll come in and figure out what they have to do for free agency, the draft, and they'll just move forward. And so there's no real reason that they shouldn't be talked about in that light. Look at the division. Who's challenging them in the division? So
they're already in the playoffs.
Yeah, so that's the first step, and then you've got your quarterback back who continues to defy time, and there's no reason to believe that won't happen again. You've got the offensive staff back, and I know Brian Flores is going to move on, but they're developing other young coaches there. Maybe this is a time for Stephen Belichick to actually get more responsibility there. Stephen, who was coaching the part of the secondary, the safeties. It's just such a different situation than what the Rams are going through right now, where they've got to navigate through this uncharted territory. New England's not dealing with that, and there's none of the controversy that you had last season. This is a pretty stable time where they can truly just move on to the next moment, which is prepping for the draft.
They've got 4 picks in the top 75. If you were, because they have the additional second-round pick that was the Bears' second-round pick, and then their own pick. So
they pick up their #1 from last year, who was hurt all season.
Correct.
He comes back, and
Isaiah Wynn, the guy they got for Brandon Cooks, essentially never played. But the reason I was mentioning it was, if you were working with the front office, what would your #1 priority or your top few priorities be team building wise? They got a little bit of cap space. They got those draft picks. What are some areas where you feel like, despite winning the Super Bowl, they could improve upon going into next season?
Some of that's going to depend on which one of their free agents they bring back and what's available in free agency. You know, Bill likes drafting tight ends. He's drafted a lot of tight ends over time. Typically, he's not going to draft a wide receiver. He's drafted 1 wide receiver in the first round. And what is this, 24, 25 years of being a head coach. So odds are they're not drafting a wide receiver. But you got a good shot to at least bring in someone to, if Gronk is back, to help out that situation and to eventually replace him. So I could see that being one spot that they go to. And maybe they go to receiver a little bit later. At some point, they've got to address the quarterback.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think they should? We thought last year it was seemingly unanimous that obviously the Patriots, one of their top picks, is going to draft a backup quarterback, a young quarterback. They obviously didn't. They rolled with Hoyer all year. Hoyer didn't take a single meaningful snap. Do you think that would be on their priority list?
But it paid off for them. They got Sony Michel.
Of course. They got Sony Michel when people thought maybe they were going to draft Lamar Jackson or something. Like,
didn't they draft a quarterback late last year? Like,
I mean, with a premium pick. Pardon me. That you don't think that? No. Not the Garoppolo situation, not where they look at a guy that they think could eventually take over.
I would potentially, if there's a guy that pops and also drops into that second round area, potentially, but they've done a good job with being able to develop guys as well. And I'm not sure how they feel about the player they drafted last year, but it's to me it'd be more of a interior tight end type spot.
This is one of the things with New England when drafting players, because if you want to continue to play multiples, which they're going to do defensively and offensively, it's hard to do that. Now, they're always going to groom younger players, but New England's also going to pick your roster. So you can look at the draft picks. They're not as exciting to me as who on some other team didn't play the kind of football, and then they end up being the next Edelman or
Wes Welker when he became free in Miami. And what's great for them is new head coach in Miami, new head coach in New York. They're going to want their own guys. They're going to send a bunch of guys
and those
into the
are guys that they have the most intel on because they're in the division. They play those teams twice a year.
You play them over and over again. You really got a good feel for them. Transition happens all around the league. All those new head coaches will push these guys into the market, and they'll be undervalued. And then New England, the other advantage they have is the scouting staff has so many reps under their belt. Everybody knows what they're looking for. Everybody knows what a slot receiver in New England looks like. Everybody knows what they're looking for on defense. Everybody knows the mental makeup of the type of players that they want. So you can go out into the marketplace with certainty, where most teams are guessing, well, what does my head coach want? What do we really need? There's not that clarity of the parts that need to be put into play to make the machine keep running.
So it just sounds like they've got it all figured out, that it's a very clear path all the way. What are the questions that they really do need to address, though, over the course of the next couple of months, especially to get this team back to where it was?
Well, I don't think it sounds like it. They've proven that they've had it pretty well figured out over time.
Well, you didn't lay out too many obstacles, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Because the obstacles that they have overcome, each time they do it, there's more and more experience built up, and that's where I keep going back to the continuity. I don't think it's going to be a pure function of we have to go get this position.
Okay.
I think it's more a function of, like Chris mentioned, what are the opportunities that suddenly open up in free agency that weren't there, and how are we best going to spend our draft capital in relationship to our salary capital, because those two things work in conjunction with each other. And Bill does a really good job of looking at it globally and having those two things fused together.
Yeah, I think he's going to try to get some playmakers, either through free agency or the draft, that being on the offensive side. You talked about he's not going to spend the draft capital on a wide receiver, but they've done everything they could to try to get wide receivers in the door, even making the trade for Josh Gordon, who's no longer available to play, suspended currently. So look for on the defensive side, especially for their safeties. They got some veteran safeties that are getting a little bit older. Look for them to use some of those draft picks to bring in guys to be able to groom behind it. He needs playmakers. Brady needs playmakers, and you're not going to be able to, especially with Gronk. Gronk's not getting any faster. So I look for someone to be able to back him up or someone to take over that spot. But they need a wide receiver bad.
And we saw that they prioritized the idea of playmakers by trading for Philip Dorsett. They didn't get a big production out of him. He had the touchdown in the AFC Championship game at the end of the half. They went out and got Cordarrelle Patterson, tried to find ways to get the ball in his hands. Guys like that maybe would be less effort to actually put them in position to make a play. They have shown by their own decisions they do prioritize that. They just, over the last year and a half or so, haven't been able to find a guy that really hit for them in that capacity.
And they do prioritize it, but they're not going to chase it. They're
not going to reach in the draft.
There's been only a few times where you've looked at it and you've been shocked at how much they spent to go get a free agent. And who was it? Adalius Thomas is the one where you go and you get that, and it hasn't really worked out. So it's more a function of where is that.
Stephon Gilmore surprised us with how much they spent, and it's paid off beautifully for them.
Yes.
Coach, I speak for everyone here when I say thank you so much for hanging out with us this week. Loved having you.
Yeah,
great
season from
soon.
Coach,
yes.
You know me better. You know Jenna don't speak for me.
I know.
Enough.
So this half the table.
Speak for myself. How will Kyrie impact the potential Anthony Davis trade? That is next on First Things First.
Chris doesn't believe in thanking people for doing things they're getting paid to do.
Okay.
This is a philosophy he has. I disagree with the philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, we're
being consistent.
Yeah, he's being paid
like
here.
Don Draper said.
Mannix is not in that role. Okay.
Free.